Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cyber Voices, the official podcast of the Australian Information Security Association, otherwise known as ASA. I'm your host, as always, David Willett, and it is my pleasure to have you with us as we explore the diverse voices of the Australian cyber industry. Hello, we are here, day one of CyberCon Melbourne 2025, and we're live on the expo floor, and I am very excited and also very honored because I am joined in the booth, first guest of the conference, by Theresa Payton, who was the first female White House Chief Information Officer under President George W. Bush. And is today the CEO of Fortalice, who is tackling cybercrime and advising Fortune 500 leaders on AI, technology innovation, and digital security. Theresa, welcome to Cyber Voices.
Thanks for having me. I didn't realize I was your first.
You are the first of the day, actually. Okay. So that's exciting. Well, welcome, not only welcome to CyberCon, but welcome to Australia.
Yes, it's my first trip here. I'm having a lovely time.
Oh, wow. What do you think of Melbourne so far?
I love it. It's gorgeous. I love it so much. Although every city that I visit around the world, or even in the United States, I always say there's like different things I track in my mind, like a food that I remember, a smell that I remember. But also I've added to it over the years sound.
Oh, yeah.
And so my sound for Melbourne is your seagulls.
Really? I thought you would have said like the sounds of the trams or something like that.
No, the seagulls, they're really, really active around the hotel and it's fun. It's like once you get used to it, you're like, okay. Yeah, this is good. Yeah. So like Kauai, the sound of Kauai is roosters.
I've been to Kauai and yes, and I remember heeding the warnings and taking a white noise app on my phone.
Oh, no, you get used to it. It's very comforting. You hear them in the background and you're like, oh, it's Hey from Moana.
But literally everywhere.
Like literally everywhere.
I love that you because not a lot of people go to Kauai in Hawaii. I think a lot of people do Oahu and Maui, but the other islands like Kauai or even the Big Island. So
there
you go.
And let's see, Sao Paulo in Brazil, there's this beep, 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 beep.
I've never been there.
If you've ever been on the highways, it's legendary bumper-to-bumper traffic. And they have a ton of delivery messengers and delivery of food. And they're on mopeds, and they basically break all traffic laws. And so while they're breaking all the traffic laws, they just go beep, 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 beep. See, I guess you don't run over them. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been to a few countries like that as well. Well, anyway, it's great to have you here. I hope you get to explore everything that CyberCon has to offer and everything that Melbourne has to offer. And you just gave our opening keynote. How was it?
Oh my gosh, what a great audience. I mean, just the energy in the room. They were so engaged. You know, when I asked questions, I got answers. And it was just great to see all those smiling faces and, you know, a full room. And there were a couple of people that kicked it off before me, and what great talks. There's a lot of serious work going on in Australia, and it was really great to hear.
Yeah, you had Michelle McGuinness on just before you, who's a staple at ASA events and any Australian cyber event because she's just so fabulous. She's always got something new to say and showing such incredible leadership at a government level as well. Really well-respected figure. So Michelle, and then into you, I think we got an amazing opening to the show.
Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, that's my first time getting a chance to meet her. And so you're very fortunate to have her leadership here.
We are indeed. So you found the audience good. You know, I was there for a little bit of it. I actually came out afterwards and I spoke to our general manager here at ASA. And she told me that was probably one of the most well-attended opening keynotes that we've ever had on day one.
Oh, how amazing. Well, thank you, everybody. What a warm Australian welcome.
There you go.
I mean, you know, if my family were here, I wouldn't leave.
Yeah. Well, there's that. So tell me, from White House CIO to CEO, tell us a little bit about that journey. What's that been like?
Crazy.
Yeah, I
bet. but really rewarding. So when I left the White House at the end of 2008, I was pregnant with my little girl, Maeve, and that's our third. And my husband and I were talking, and I said, you know, I don't want to go back to being a CIO in banking, which is what I had been before I went to the White House. And I said, I see the dangers that are coming. I've been read into all these special programs. I see the capabilities of the adversary. And I have to warn people. And I was interviewing for jobs. I'm like 7 months pregnant, interviewing for all these jobs. I'm like, I love to work. Don't worry, I'm coming back to work. And I just could not find the right role. And I felt like I was being called and led to do something different than a CIO role. And my husband said, well, why don't you just start your own firm? And if you don't like it, you can always go back to corporate America. And I said, okay, well, we don't do that in this family. We're either military or law enforcement. Like I don't know anything about starting a business. And he's like, well, just talk to people that you trust. And so I did. And I had my first 3 clients before I had my business named or stood up. And so I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And then I decided to actually bring on employees a few years later. And so we're about 30 employees. We're a boutique cybersecurity firm. And it's been incredibly rewarding. And, being an entrepreneur is very different than working in corporate America. So there's pros to that, like you are the decision maker. There's cons to that. You are the decision maker. Mm-hmm. So you have to move. Yep, you have to make decisions.
It seems like from listening to your talk this morning, the spark for cybersecurity was lit during your time in the White House. Would that be fair to say?
It's fair to say. I mean, I fortunately worked at a time in banking where if you were in charge of a technology, you were in charge of managing the fraud and the security. And so even those were separate teams, you still had to interact with them and manage the fraud loss for your business client and to manage the cybersecurity for your business client. And so I always had responsibility for it, but I only saw what you see in banking.
Of course.
I didn't see everything else. And if you think about, I was at the White House 2006 to 2008, like what were we really talking about in 2005 when it came to cybersecurity in businesses, right? It was like passwords and patching. And, the first iPhone didn't come out till 2007.
And probably even barely talking about patching, because I think vulnerability management and even acknowledging that vulnerabilities existed in its system only really came about.
Does everybody remember, like, we had a patch Tuesday? Like, you actually had a day of the week, and it's like a day of the week you do patches. Oh, that's so quaint.
Yeah. I still think Patch Tuesdays still exist to an extent in terms of when they're released. But yes, that was indeed a thing. Tell us a little bit more about how that spark got lit during that time, because you told some really interesting stories during your talk about what I sort of thought of a very unique and diverse ways of thinking about, I guess, what we would now call cyber education and awareness. And I would love if you could maybe retell the story of the White House Happy Meal.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
I loved that.
And I think it gets to, again, no matter what your responsibility is with technology, the whole point of technology is it's here to serve humans. Mm-hmm. And so always understanding that human user story. And that's where the White House Happy Meal comes in, because what we learned the hard way was people found our briefings to be boring. So they tried everything they could not to go, which is not helpful. And the other piece is they weren't fully paying attention to sort of device safety for good reason, because they thought, well, if I let you know I can't find it, maybe I'm going to be in trouble. And so you have to really turn the table on that. So if you really want to be a business enabler, which I firmly believe that cybersecurity is a business enabler, if you really want to be at the seat, have that seat at the table, then you have to focus on that human user story. And so what we figured out was we did a pilot. I asked for permission to fail because I think it's really important to set up expectations. Like, we're trying something we've never tried before, and it might not work, but we won't know until we try. And so once I had that permission to fail, I went back to we have 13 components that make up the executive office of the president. I went to one of them that was very constructively critical on a regular basis, let's say. And I asked them to be in the pilot. But what I did, sort of just playing to human user story, was I told them it was invitation only. That they were the only ones allowed in this pilot. Yeah, VIPs. I'm like, look, you guys are always telling me what we need to do to improve. So you know what? You're in an invitation only pilot. And so kind of creating a level of exclusiveness, almost black card, like everybody else is not going to be in this pilot, just you, because I can count on you to tell me what's working and not working. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, what was interesting was we not only improved our security for the White House, people were more encouraged to actually come to the briefings because we would tell them, you're going to get a White House Happy Meal. So the White House Happy Meal was all White House branded things, starting with presidential M&Ms and presidential jelly beans, and then filling out the rest with pens and pencils. It was all stuff we had in the supply closet. So it wasn't like we went and bought anything. And then we made the briefing less than 5 minutes. And what we boiled it down to was, what's really the most important thing here? We just want them to call us. That's actually the most important thing.
Yeah.
I'm going on international travel. I should call Teresa's team. I can't find my device. I should call Teresa's team. That's what we wanted. And so all these briefings we're doing and all that stuff, we weren't making anybody want to call us. As a matter of fact, we were the last people they wanted to call. But then by saying to them, look, it's going to be a short briefing. We're going to give you chocolate and jelly beans. I joke about that. But, people, it's more hospitality at that point. And every time you call us, we're going to bring you another Happy Meal. And we had incredible results in the pilot. But the unexpected benefit of the pilot was the other 12 components who were not in the invitation only started seeing these Happy Meal bags. And they started asking what they were. And then so the people in the invitation only kind of got like a little superiority complex. So they're like, oh, you have to be invited. We were the only ones invited, just our component. And now with the competitive nature of the White House, people were begging to be in the security briefing. So I think that's a win.
That's absolutely a win. What I think I love about that story and why it probably resonated so much to the audience here in Melbourne is, we get this view of the White House through Hollywood, right?
Sure.
And I'm sure it is a very super serious place and all that kind of stuff. But just to hear that, no, there are things that go on in the corporate structure there that we can actually learn from. And it's such a simple thing. And most of us won't think about it. We'll just be like, oh, got to make people do their training. Got to make people do their email phishing simulations or pop a travel briefing up on the intranet so people know what to do. But that becomes like this toll gate for people. Instead of it's like, no, here's this exclusive thing and here's some lollies and some chocolate and all that kind of stuff. And boom, people show up.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that we've forgotten, and I'm so fortunate, I've had so many bosses over the years in banking and at the White House. We're really in a hospitality business. When you work in technology, operations, and cybersecurity, and even fraud, we're really in the hospitality business because what are we doing? We are trying to make sure that everybody has as frictionless as possible, seamless, elegant service experience. And we forget because there's tools, there's frameworks, there's protocols, there's processes, there's regulatory concerns. And all of those things kind of kill the energy that we all have around, I'm really in the hospitality business because really what I'm trying to do is serve you. You're trying to use technology and I'm trying to make sure you're safe and secure and have the privacy and confidentiality that you deserve. That is service. But we get really caught up in the tools and the frameworks and compliance and regulatory. And it kind of kills that spirit, that creative spirit that I know everybody in this industry actually has, or you wouldn't be in the industry.
Yeah. And probably get caught up in that whole message of danger and risk and all that kind of stuff too, which is very real.
It is very real.
The danger and risk is very real, but people don't always respond to scare tactics.
Well, here's the thing, because I've had so many bosses say to me, I already know it's scary and dark out there. That's what we have you and your team for. I look at my job is I worry about all the scary things so that my clients or my business partner, when I was in corporate America, doesn't have to.
Yeah.
They don't want to share your nightmares. They want to know you have the nightmare and you're taking care of it so they can sleep. This is why we're in the hospitality business. And I don't think a lot of people, because that makes it sound like we're not technical. Absolutely, we're very technical. But at the end of the day, we are practitioners serving other practitioners. We are people serving other people. There just has to be, our big part of our job is it's technology.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Now, I want to pivot to sort of the second half of your talk this morning. You're very big on AI at the moment, as is everyone, and as we should be. But I really enjoyed your focus on AI innovation and, again, talking about human-centered design. Now, the possibilities of AI really seemed to excite you. And that was what really came across in your keynote. Whilst it's sort of scaring others, other people are getting up on that same stage and warning of the dangers and could be making life hell for some people as to with, what the term AI slop filling up everyone's news feeds and all that kind of stuff. But it excites you. Tell me a bit about why AI excites you so much.
Yeah, because we could certainly spend time talking about the things I don't like about it because of lack of governance and guardrails. But let's talk about the cool things that are going to be happening, and then we can talk about governance and guardrails after. But what I love about the technology is it's finally consumable and accessible. And so I went to University of Virginia for my master's. And it was more than a minute ago that I went for my master's. And we were working with machine learning, behavioral-based analytics. We were calling it fuzzy logic, neural networks, basically AI. And it was not going to be accessible to hardly anybody. We were sitting in real labs hammering this stuff out. And it was exciting and invigorating and frustrating and hard. And now I like to call skills snackable and stackable. So now it's, sort of you can dabble in AI as little or as much as you want. And it's sort of a snackable thing that you can do. And then things that you learn are stackable. So you can say, well, I'm going to use ChatGPT as my daily assistant. And now that I've used ChatGPT as my daily assistant, maybe I'll use something like Notebook LLM to pull apart big, hefty thought leadership papers and PDFs and turn it into a 10-minute podcast. I actually uploaded my book to it to turn it into a 10-minute podcast for people like, I don't have time to read your book before I interview you. I'm like, well, here's a 10-minute podcast. And they're like, this was so good. Who were they? I'm like, AI. Like literally AI.
Was it your voice or just?
No, it was a man and a woman. And they actually, I gave it to my husband and he was like, which interview is this? I'm like, it's AI. It's literally Notebook LLM. And I said, turn it into a podcast. And a man and a woman, and you give them, you don't get to pick out their voices, but you get to pick out how they talk about the material.
Right.
So you could say, I want this to be very professional or very buttoned up. And I said, I want it to be approachable. And so it sounds like you and I having a conversation. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so snackable, stackable. I don't like what I'm hearing about the layoffs and the slowdowns in hiring. I wonder how much of that it's convenient to blame AI versus maybe you were already going to do it anyways, but you don't want to say why. So you wonder, like in big periods of automation around the world, we've seen people say, I'm going to do layoffs. But when you look at it, even if the automation hadn't happened, they were going to do layoffs, right?
Yeah.
So
I find that interesting too, just the numbers that you see get reported. I'm like, surely have all of those jobs been replaced by AI agents?
No.
All of those people it's that redundant.
Yeah.
And it's probably a mixture, right?
Yeah, what I love about AI, in my opinion, it's the early days. It's sort of like for anybody who's been around long enough that you got like your first Mac or you got your first computer and you're like, wow, this is like so amazing. All these things that I can do. I can write my own menu and I just hit 3 and it opens up MS-DOS or whatever you're using, Lotus 123 and, things like that. And we're still in the very early days of this very accessible AI. And a couple of things I do caution organizations to think about. The first one is, because it is the early days, think of AI's attitude with anything you give it as, this is good enough. AI is not perfect. And so it's basically built right now to please you and to give you an answer. So it's good enough. So the question is do you want a human in the loop who says good enough is actually not good enough? It has to be 100% in compliance with this framework. So you have to ask questions about the business application of AI right now. Otherwise, you're in danger of the AI really letting you down. The other thing I'm telling organizations to think about is pilot, and look at true total compute costs. There's sort of a race to say, well, Betty costs this much, and it takes Betty 2 hours to do this thing, and it took ChatGPT 1 hour, therefore 50% of the cost. It's like, no. That's like, consulting math. That's actually not the real math. The real math is over time, what do your compute costs cost based on your data architecture, based on what you're going to be charged in the future, based on how many tokens it actually really takes to do that. And you have to really look at that total cost of ownership. And that's hard to do unless you do a pilot.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, have you ever tried to tell an AI not to do something? Because it can be.
Oh, I know, right?
You would need to be putting them on a performance plan pretty quickly.
I love that. I love it. But there's so much that I think, like, for example, I've seen AI used in security operations centers. And what I love about this is you hire your junior analyst to work in your security operations center. And then you take, and it's agentic AI, everything's being AI washed, and now everything's being agentic AI washed. But you can have these little personal assistants to each of your SOC analysts, and you can train them on your playbooks on, okay, when an alert comes in like this and it looks like that, what's the playbook? And so the assistant could say, hey, there's 5 alerts right now of password resets. That's usually an anomaly for our firm. That's too many in a short period of time. You may want to look at whether or not a brute force attack is underway or password, basically somebody's trying to do some password smashing on the network or whatever's going on. So you can now have junior analysts. It's almost like they have a coach that's kind of not doing the work for them, but suggesting the work. And maybe at nighttime when you don't have staff, maybe you could have it taking care of things automatically and they can always undo it in the morning when they come in. So I'm seeing some really cool applications of taking the team you already have and enhancing the work that they can get done for you.
Yeah, and as someone who has runs internal SOC teams or balanced external SOC teams or outsourced SOC teams for many, many years, I've come from times where we've probably spent the better part of 12 months trying to tune out the noise, if not longer.
Oh, so much signal noise, right?
Yeah.
So much, so many false positives.
But it's not like that anymore. Well, it is to an extent, but we're starting to dabble with some of this AI for security, because I would have thought maybe a year or two ago there was no real killer app in cyber for cyber defenders, but we're getting there. We're starting to get there. Yeah, there was sort of some glorified, chat GPTs for security for a while, which would just say, if you have a vulnerability, you should patch it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so cute of you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So no, those are some really good examples. On this as well, you spoke this morning about how you've traveled the world to talk to people about how they're using AI and getting insights on its impact on that global scale. What can you share with some of the most interesting or standout insights or conversations that you had on your travels around AI?
Yeah, I mean, Japan was fascinating to me. I mean, Japan's just an incredible country with such a rich, rich history. And it was incredible to me because they were very specific, no matter who I met with, around AI should not be replacing humans. It should be enhancing human life. Mm-hmm. And it was, almost the same exact words used in every conversation around that. And I thought that was very, very fascinating. Switzerland. So I did get into this in the talk, but I believe it's in my notes, but they talked a lot about really ensuring critical thinking skills are taught at every level, at every age, including in public service announcements, because we're getting to a point where you can't even believe your own eyes, ears. You can't believe what you're reading. I mean, we sort of feel like, like you said, the AI slop that's out there. You read an article and you're like, come on, man. Did you really write this?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't feel like the right cadence.
Yeah.
Like, I'm having a hard time reading it. It feels like a human didn't write it and I don't want to read it. Yeah.
Every article on my LinkedIn feed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and even people like that, and you're like, you don't talk like that in real life.
What's
or use
that many
here?
Emojis.
I don't know. Some days are big emoji days for me. I don't know.
When I'm texting, maybe. But yeah.
I know. It's kind of crazy, but we're in a very interesting time.
Right.
Italy was interesting because it was very much focused on, if you think about all the beautiful things that have come out of Italy, you've got Rome, you've got all the works of art, and you've got all these long historied families who commissioned so many pieces of art and things like that. And so their focus was on, well, we don't mind AI, but like, where does it fit into the design process?
Yeah, of course.
And how do we make sure we're still a high touch culture? I don't want to talk to AI all day. I want to go have a cappuccino in the morning, not in the afternoon, everybody, in the morning. And, I want to be with people. So just very interesting, very much aligns with each of the cultures, what they're thinking about.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Yeah. And you're reminding me how much I love Italy as well, by the way. I remember.
Who doesn't love Italy?
I know. Well, you spoke in your talk about, talking to people in like Positano and the Amalfi Coast. I went there for the first time last year, and I may have fallen in love a little bit.
Okay, well, sometime we should talk about the story of there's a legend, actually.
All right.
So I'll just tell it for everybody real quickly here. So there's a legend, and it's sort of in the Pompeii area, and basically, so there's an area, the wine there is called Lacrima Christi, which is the tears of Christ. And the legend is that when Satan got thrown out of heaven for being naughty, he grabbed a piece of Eden and he put it in his pocket. And then he got evicted from heaven. And when he fell to earth, the piece of Eden fell out of his pocket and it landed there in Italy. And then when God went looking for the missing piece of Eden and he found it and it was already there, he cried over it.
Ah.
And he cried over the loss. And, because it's a loss. So it's just very interesting little legends about that area.
Yeah, probably.
Nothing to do with AI.
No, I was going to say probably made up by the locals who love that area. And before we kind of got into this, you mentioned briefly, all right, the guardrails and the governance and how important they are now. I am a massive science fiction buff, as people who listen to this podcast will know. Anytime AI comes up, I'm like,
okay, what type of science fiction? Are you talking Star Wars, Star Trek, or something?
Oh, I'm a big Star Trek fan.
Okay.
I'm a massive Trekkie, but I love like anything sort of, like high concept kind of sci-fi, all that kind of thing. Children of Time series, which I just read. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But I always say, as a big sci-fi buff, I'm like, I know how this ends.
Or I can imagine, at least.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hopefully not Terminator.
Yeah, hopefully not Terminator. Maybe more Star Trek. There's a little bit more hope in that. But what are some of the guardrails that you're starting to see, or that you're advising your clients on?
Yeah, so for the clients, I always tell them, after you think about your data schema, then you think about, who are we doing this for? What are we trying to accomplish, and how do we serve them, and where does this technology play a role? What is our duty of care to our employees, to our customers? What are our third-party vendors? Are they living up to our duty of care that we have? And so that begins the guardrails discussion. Mm-hmm. And then you move into, well, just because we can, doesn't mean we should. Yeah. Right? So just because we can move to 100%, you'll never talk to a human again, you're just going to get our AI chatbots. Does it mean you should? So maybe you're going to have some level of the customer base, that's all they need, and they'll never opt out. But what if you do have a level of your customer base who that's not getting it done for them? And now you're not serving them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just doing it because everyone else is not a reason.
So those are kind of the, obviously governance frameworks, we all have to follow regulatory compliance. That's it. So that's a non-negotiable. But so that's part of your governance and guardrails. The other thing too is a lot of people say, oh, governance, that sounds like slowing down. Mm-hmm. And really governance is there to help you go faster.
Yeah.
Because especially if you have a board or investors you have to answer to, by saying, I have, that's why I made the 5-step governance framework, because then you could say to your investors or to your board, well, we have this 5-step governance framework and it's grounded in 20 frameworks, but here's what we do. And again, you don't have to have AI engineers, because guess what? Nobody has AI engineers except for maybe the AI companies.
They all learned it 2 years ago.
Yes, and they're learning now. It's something you're learning now. And so you can build out this capability by using the people that you have. And again, that governance group, it's more about asking the tough questions.
Yeah, there you go. And I've seen it work really well in some places, even where I'm working at the moment, where people are just sort of setting up like these AI incubators
Yes.
where there is governance built into that, and people like myself are involved in that. But it's all about, all right, how do we safely and securely but quickly
Yes.
do all this, test and pilot and, fail fast, fail often, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Being prepared to fail, like you spoke about earlier. Look, I've got to hand you back to CyberCon and let you go and enjoy the rest of this wonderful event. But I guess, what have you got planned for the rest of your Australian trip, if I can pivot back to that?
Sure, absolutely. So I think, CyberCon asked me to do Sky News last night, which was amazing. It was great to be in studio. Then I was on CNN International this morning. I have your podcast, which has been absolutely lovely to be on. I have another podcast, a book signing. I'll be at the awards dinner. I do have a radio interview back home, and then I fly home.
Oh, it's just,
but it's
nothing but a media tour.
No, I know, but it's been amazing because I've met so many smart people and thoughtful people, and I learn so much by the questions I get asked.
Yeah, of course.
Because it tells me the things that still need focus and need exploring and need discovery. So this has just been amazing. So what I'll say for people listening to this that are here right now, didn't you have an amazing time? It's been incredible. And for those who are listening to this who didn't get to come, I will tell you I go to a lot of conferences. This one's special. This one's different. And you need to book to be here next year.
Yeah. Cyber Christmas, we call it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, well, I do hope you get some time to go out and explore Melbourne. My city is beautiful, and I hope you get to enjoy it.
Oh, I will tell you. So I've been running all over the city, and it's been
Have you tried
amazing.
our coffee yet?
At the hotel, I have. It's lovely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Try to get down one of the little alleyways or something like that. And get like a proper barista coffee made in the city. Thank you so much for coming to it all this way to share your insights.
It's been wonderful. I hope I get invited back.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your voice with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cyber Voices. Our music is by Sanar Garut, our show artwork is by Studio Quarantine, and we record our show at This Is a Studio in Pran, Melbourne, part of Popplant Productions. Please make sure you follow the show on your podcast platform of choice and leave us a 5-star review. This will help others find the show. Also, please follow the association on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you want to add your voice to our ever-growing chorus of diverse cyber voices, have questions, feedback, or would like to be a sponsor, you can do so by emailing us at cybervoices@aisa.org.au. That's cybervoices@aisa.org.au. Are you an AISA member? If not, you should consider joining our network of over 12,000 members across Australia. An AISA membership can open doors, build professional networks, create lifetime friendships, and offer exclusive training, events, and other perks. Become a member today by heading to our website at aisa.org.au. That is all for today. I hope you will join us again next time on Cyber Voices.